Hi, I'm Yaku. This is my workshop, and this is a weekly upload from our side to take our knowledge, what we have inside of us, and give it to you. Today we're dealing with platinum, we're dealing with an oval big diamond and two pear diamonds, and we're going to make a ring out of that. I'm making a framework for the stones, and we're going to mount that into a very sort of classic slash modern setting. Can you say classic slash modern? I'm sure we can. It's a classic design with the three stones, but it's a modern take on the way that we've done it. Stay till the end. And thank you very much for joining again. I melted platinum together to get like a blob.
Blob?
Blob. We rolled that out to about 1.3 millimeters, and I did this because I was going to take the stones and put them upside down, glue them. It's this super glue. And then trace around the stones. And I'm talking about the stone lies like this, don't come in at an angle. It's completely straightforward down. I've got an oval and I've got two pear shapes. We cut out the shape of the stone underneath. Very important, you don't cut it on the line that you've done. You go slightly inwards and you cut a smaller version parallel to the outside line. Create a little bed for it to lie on, and you can sort of judge it by putting the stone lower and lower until it seats itself perfectly. Then we pierce out the sections around that and you have a setting just like that. I use two wires to create a cross, so I'm taking a cylinder burr halfway through the first wire and halfway through the second wire. If I bring those two halves together that I've hollowed out, they can slot into each other, and that's the center point that I'm looking for. Single solder over there, then I've got myself a little plus, a little claw that's open and ready to be bent. I'm gently using my fingers to curve it around to create a claw setting. The claws are bent into the shape that I want. I've made sure that they're all 90 degrees. When I'm bringing the little setting in that I've created where the stone lies exactly on it, and I bring it to the bottom, you'll find that the angle of the wire is going to just touch the bottom. Because we've cut that setting out straight, it's just going to cut the bottom. What I want to do now is I want to create little grooves where the wire can come in so that I've got contact from the bottom right to the top. And where the wires end up, it can either be right on the edge there, because I know I can just fold them around, or even slightly in, so that I can cut a little bit of the claw away to press over the stone. Where the wires touch the setting, I then use a pencil on either side to create a little pathway for me to cut. I use a small needle file from here onwards to create a path for the wires to be slotted into, yes. Before the wires goes on, I shape the actual setting from the point where I know that the stone's going to lie right down to the bottom in a bit of a rounding. I give it a bit of a D shape to soften it up. I'm doing this before I put the wires on because it's annoyingly difficult to do it once the wires are soldered on. Once the wires fit perfectly and I've got the setting down to where I want it to be, I can just solder it, and I've got my first setting done. Time to move over to the pears on the side. My first setting is absolutely perfect. Everything is balanced, and because it's balanced, I can hold it and then take these little pear shapes that I've actually made previously, and I'll break that angle so that if I have my first setting over here and I bring the second setting together, I can bring that angle down to create the angle that I'm looking for, which is obviously going to be sort of a step down. So once I've done that, I'm taking the setting, I'm holding it in my hands, and visually I'm inspecting exactly where the halfway mark on this is. I take that over to the laser machine, just tack it slightly, which melts that platinum onto each other, then bring it back to the bench and then traditionally solder it. I've got my center stone and my two side settings without any claws soldered at the angle that I'm looking for. So everything is going the way it should be going for me at the moment. I want to create the two end claws for the pears. I'm doing this by creating one wire that's going to be running straight through the whole thing, coming up and then curving, so to hold my settings on the side. I'm creating an angle on the 2 points of the pear settings. The angle is because I'm bringing a single wire through the center, and I want that wire, obviously it's coming right from the bottom, so I need it to curve up to the top. This is part of that modern sort of style that I'm referring to. I then bring a wire in and see where the wire is going to be going through, create a groove again so that the wire sits into the actual setting and comes up to the point of the pear. In fact, this time I went slightly into the point so that I know that when my pear lies down, I've got a little cavity that I can create and bend it round. I've got a groove this side, I've got an angle on the points, so the wire comes up beautifully and it sits exactly where I want it to sit. And same this side, but I'm using one wire. And because the center setting has a point where it all comes together, and I don't want to have anything lower than that, I'm now grooving the center setting as well, because I want the wire to come from this groove, from that point, down through the middle setting and back out into the groove, into the point of the other one. I shaped the angle of the wire that I'm going to be using for the 2 points of the pear shapes. I'm shaping that in the shape of the size of the ring that I'm looking for. I'm inserting it into the little groove that I've created over there, and then I solder that. To create balance, I'm using a screwdriver point, which I found with the little watch screwdrivers, I always have the right size because they've got quite a variety of different sizes. I slot the screwdriver in there and I create the last turn around the pear shape's point. And I do the same on the other side. This way I know my cavity size is exactly the same on both sides. So the setting has got the end claws on them. It's got the center stones claws on it, but by physics, you need more claws on the pears, otherwise if you put them in there, they're just going to fall out. You can't just have one wire on them, so we have to put another 2 wires at least on there. Now I'm looking at what I've got available, because the structure is exactly what I want it to be. It's nice and clean. What we need to do now is take the 2 small wires that we need for the stone, and we're creating a rounded wire that flows with the design, bring them into the point in the middle and let them come out together. It's easy to work with the balance the way it is right now because everything is so balanced. So if I'm placing the one wire this side, I can sort of see on the other side that's exactly where I want it. I've soldered the bottom parts in first, and then as the wires come around, I can manipulate them exactly where I want them. The setting is done. I'm happy with everything. I really am happy with the way it looks. It was actually a good day of work because I really thoroughly enjoyed what I did. The visual effect of the thing is just perfect. I'm happy. I'm a happy guy. Now I've got to make a shank, otherwise what are you going to do with the setting, right? And so I've got my shank thickness, I've got my width that I'm looking for. What I'm doing in this case is I'm going to flatten the 2 sides so that if I bring them together like that, I have an increase in height towards the top. You could do this once it's been soldered as well, but again, we like having fun.
Yeah, we like doing different things sometimes.
How boring would the video be if we tell you exactly the same thing over and over? I'm hammering this side and that side. I'm bringing them together, so I've got my 2 knife edges. I'll pass them to the point where I need them on the size, cut them open, bring them back together, fuse those 2 parts together, and from here onwards, we brought the shank and the setting together, and this is where the magic started happening. On the pears, it will indicate exactly, obviously, where you want that shank to meet up with the final claws on the points of the pears. So you can make a judgment. I always go slightly in because I can actually work it outwards to fine-tune it, if you want to call it that. I maintain a certain height on the thickness of the part that's going to be resting on the finger, which is usually about 1 millimeter thick as well. Binding wire is made from steel, platinum is made from platinum. So you have one that will melt quicker than the other, and the steel will melt before the platinum, so it's really not a good idea to use binding wire on platinum, but I'm using it to hold the settings together and soldering one single point away from the binding wire, and then once I've done that, I can take the binding wire off and then attend to all the other solders. That's what I've done with the binding wire wire.
Nice. I was wondering.
Yeah, I have sometimes used actual platinum to create binding wire as well.
You're not just being fancy. Get out of here.
Again, before you put anything together, make sure that you work it off with the finest sandpaper, because once you've got something soldered together, the corners that it creates really makes it difficult to work out rough surfaces. So if you've worked it right down to the finest sandpaper, it makes it so much easier to do the polishing. And then obviously once it's been polished and every little angle's been attended to, we take it to the setting desk, which is right over there. You can't see it, but it's right over there, I promise you. But once it's set, gotta go. We do videos every single week. Thank you very much for watching. As per usual, bell icon, subscribe, share the video if you want to. That's our food. That's what we eat there.
I mean, we don't literally eat that, because in that case, we wouldn't have to do anything else.
We don't eat
we could just make
subscribe
videos.
buttons or anything like that, or likes. It makes us feel good, but we don't eat them.
No.
We just look at them and we go,
oh
hey,
yeah, we could keep doing this for a bit longer.
Somebody's like the video. Yeah, that's enough.
Of
that's
the
enough from
outro.
us. Cheers.
Bye.
I know where my setting is going to reach because I can see, obviously, the setting. Because I made it.
Very informative.
Important to have the setting.
Because I could see it, I knew what to do.